Good morning. It is great to be with you. For those of you I don't know, my name is Allison, and I am married to the pastor, or the pastor is married to me, whichever way you want to say that. But I'm glad to be here this morning and wish you all a happy new year. We've been going through the book of Luke for quite a while, and hearing about all the amazing stories of Jesus, the various miracles that Luke presents to us, the way Jesus has given examples of compassion and mercy, and really portrayed this image of a kingdom which God had given to the Israelite people, of a kingdom where love and compassion prevail, hope is surrounding everything, and every single person is welcome in that kingdom. As they are, as where God's going to take them to be into being the best self of who they are. And that's exactly what we've been hearing story after story of these encounters that people had with Jesus. And all of it, if you listen and you look at those stories, there's kind of one, for me, there's one arching thing, and it's hope. It's hope that things can be better or different or new opportunities. And the beginning of the year is often a time when we look back and think about the year before and kind of reflect on those things that we celebrate, those difficult times, those times when maybe a friend came along in those hard moments and just were present with us. Or maybe brought us a meal when we just didn't have the energy to do it ourselves. And we think about those things that we want to look forward to in the future. Those moments of hope that we hope that 2020 presents itself. I pray that the fires in Australia are contained soon. If you've seen the images, it's devastating and it's horrifying and it's scary. I hope that in 2020, we can see people as our neighbor and less as someone who I need to be suspicious of. I hope in 2020, we can see just the opportunities that all people can have as we continue to love them as they are. But this story here, we find Jesus walking along. He's got his crowd following, and there's all this commotion. You know, and kind of imagine on a Husker Saturday, and you see these swarms of people kind of going by all downtown. But Jesus is going down. There's commotion, and there's this man on the side of the road. And he is doing what he probably does every single day of his life. He's at the side of the road begging for a handout because he's blind. And imagine every day of his life, he gets up, someone leads him to a spot, and he puts his hand out and asks for help to meet his daily needs for that day. That's his every day. That's everything that he looks forward to. But this day, he probably heard all the commotion and knew that this was going to be the good spot to be because everybody was going by. But he hears the commotion and he says to those around him, "What's going on?" And they said, "Jesus the Nazarene is walking by." He heard stories about Jesus. Even though his daily existence was by a roadside begging for somebody to meet his daily need, throw him a piece of bread, throw him a few coins here or there, he had heard the stories of Jesus, of being a healer, of being one that provided hope and new opportunities. And he screams out. Now again, picture this on a busy, busy day with lots of people around, and he screams out, "Jesus, have mercy on me." Now, those that follow Jesus were tended to kind of get focused on one thing. And they turn to him and basically tell him to shut up. Jesus doesn't have time for you. Be quiet. He's on his way. We don't have time for you. But this man is insistent. And he just gets even more strength within him. And he screams louder than ever, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stops in his tracks. And he tells those around him, "Bring that man to me." He doesn't say, "Where's that coming from?" He just says, "Bring that man to me." So they do. They bring him to Jesus. And the man, whose everyday existence was sitting beside a road with a hand out, living in darkness, is able to see through darkness into a vision of hope for something different. And Jesus does something that can easily be looked past quickly. He asks him, "What would you like me to do?" He doesn't just assume, he doesn't, in other stories, just bam, he's healed. He actually asks him, "What would you like me to do?" And the man says, "I want to see." And Jesus simply said, "Your faith has given you sight." And then this story just says, and the man followed Jesus. That's it. So now he's part of the posse, moving down the street, going and giving all the praise and glory and seeing what's going to happen next. But Jesus took the time to ask him an important question because his voice mattered. His voice and his uniqueness and exactly who he was mattered for Jesus to hear. Jesus didn't make the assumption, well, this is what he needs, this is what he wants. He said, "Tell me, what do you want from me?" If Jesus asked that question of you, how would you answer that today? What vision of love, of hope, would you answer that today? What do you want me to do? Years ago, a couple months after I graduated college, I spent about 3 months in Costa Rica. It was supposed to be learning the language, which I did, but I had a lot of fun when I was there as well. I went with one of my best friends from college, and we kind of had a daily routine. We would go to our language classes, and then we were done by lunchtime. And at lunch, we would usually walk down to the town square of San Jose, which is the capital of Costa Rica. And we would walk down there and find somewhere to eat lunch. We had a few favorite little spots that we liked to go. But I learned a lot of things. I learned Spanish, but I learned a lot of more important lessons. And I learned about the vision and the hope that I had in my life was expanded. Because we would go down daily, and I started to see this gentleman in a wheelchair. Sometimes he was in it, sometimes he wasn't. He was in the same spot every day, begging. And I had never really been kind of confronted with that growing up in a small town. I had a wonderful opportunities growing up. I live in a country where through the work of those who have gone before me, who had a vision of a hope that things could get better, worked tirelessly to provide more access and more inclusion for people with disabilities. So I was fortunate enough to have lived in that. But this man's everyday existence, I don't know how he got to that spot at the town square, but every day, just like our man from the story, except this man was paralyzed, he would beg for a few people to drop a few coins in. I would love to tell you that I went up to him and we formed this great friendship and that I would go and talk to him and give him hope, but I never spoke to him. I just walked by, strolled by. My friend would bump me down the rough curb, and we would go on our way, having our lunch, getting caught in the rain, and people would laugh at us. And I didn't realize that, I knew that I probably would stick out a little bit, but I didn't realize how much I would stick out as doing something different, because I wasn't on the street begging for somebody to meet my daily needs. You know, I was about 22 years old, and I'm not that anymore, but it's taken me a while to really understand that there had to have been people before me that believed that things could be better. And they work hard. And they had a vision that something could be different. And they fought. And they wrote letters. And they said, no, this is not good enough. They had the faith and the boldness as the beggar on the side of the road to say, enough. I want something different. And people have done that in our country. And we have a ways to go in some of those things with accessibility, but we have a lot of things for which to be thankful for. Martin Luther King Jr. had a vision of hope that things could be different. And he called out, and he called for people, and he walked, and he marched, and he did things that there could be a kingdom that Jesus promised where all are welcome, all are fed, all have a voice. And when we walk hand in hand, we can get to that kingdom. And things have been changed. We still have a ways to go. We have others that have gone and done big things to bring change for a vision that's different than what it was yesterday, to bring a hope into tomorrow. But what about the rest of us? What do we answer when Jesus says, what do you want me to do? Do we have to have this grand vision that we're going to change the world? Or is our vision of love and hope, does it start with ourselves and with our family? Does it start with a vision that I am worthy, just as I am? God loves me for me and loves me enough to transform me into the best I can possibly be. Is it a vision that because I am worthy and God loves me for me, God loves my neighbor for them as they are? And that if my neighbor is sitting with their hand out, I could come along and grab it and be present with them to give them the earthly sustenance they need in a time of darkness. That I can be there for them when they're hurting, when they need help. I could be there for them to celebrate the joys and love and the awesome things that are happening in their life. That I can be somebody's cheerleader as well. The blind beggar, Jesus said, had faith that things could be different. You know, yes, he had physical healing, but I think he saw more, even more through the darkness than we sometimes see today. Sometimes we need that clarity of vision that there can be hope. There can be opportunity, and there can be love that surrounds each and every one of us into a future that's different than today and a present that we are all neighbors for one another. I ask you, what do you want Jesus to do for you? Where is Jesus asking you to open your eyes in the darkness and see his light and be the light for somebody else? We don't all have to have these grand measures because it starts small. We often say here at Neighbors, love is like a ripple effect. You drop it in, and it just grows and grows and grows. And that's what all of us are. Our doors are open because we had a hopeful vision that there could be a place where people would love God, love ourselves, and love our neighbors more deeply, however they are. I am grateful for those who have gone before all of us because, with a vision that things could be different. I'm grateful that we have this image of people that believed that God came and said, I am love, I am joy, I am peace, I am with you. Let that be our vision and our hope for the coming year. And as you go out this week, ask yourself, talk to Jesus and hear Jesus say, what would you want me to do? How do you answer that?